After 7, we've got 4 board members present at the moment. So we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order.
I'll move to approve the agenda,
Okay.
Mr. President.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve the agenda. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? 4-0. Okay.
If you want to wait for that, you can. Susan said she
I would like to wait, yes. You're talking about number 4, right? Yeah.
How about
Do we have number?
the bus people want to share their trophy with?
Yeah.
What is that?
You want to wait on that too? I didn't think so.
They just weren't on the agenda.
Okay. Why don't we go ahead and have the bus people share their trophy with us? Because that's a really big trophy.
I have no comments from the public.
Yeah, do we have any comments from the public? Teresa? I didn't think. Any from the audience? Okay, bus people, show us your trophy.
I'm the Director of Transportation, and some of my drivers went out to Hutchinson last week to the Kansas Pupil Transportation Association's symposium, and they competed in the rodeo, which is a really tough deal. This is for all the best drivers in the state of Kansas. They competed in their local districts, and then they go to the state meet. And it encompasses a very hard test, and then a driving skills challenge that has 10 different skills that they have to accomplish. And Deb Strudy, driver, transportation supervisor, won grand champion. She's the best in the state.
Wow.
Jackson and Dickey and Velma Kissinger competed in the rookie, which means it's the first time they've ever tried this or gone out and competed. Jackie won 3rd place, and Velma won 4th place in the state. So that's really a good accomplishment.
Awesome.
And then next month I'll go compete in the international competition in Tulsa.
In Tulsa.
Wow.
That'll be cool.
Meet all of the drivers.
You got to keep us posted on that.
Yeah.
Congratulations to all of you.
Congratulations, great job.
Okay. So we're going to skip number 4 right now and move on to item number 5.01, which is the wellness program. Carrie Schaefer.
Just go ahead and go to the mic there. There are millions of people watching closed circuit TV. They want to be able to.
Great. Okay, well, basically, I was approached by Dr. Krause back in April to meet with Gretchen Patch, who is a representative with the Alliance for a Healthier Generation. They are a organization that helps schools meet their wellness program goals. It is completely free to the district. It's a 4-year program. They will come in and help us set our wellness. We have a wellness policy, and we've been working on it since the act came in place in 2010. And actually, when I did the report this year, we're actually doing quite well, but we're doing quite well in a few buildings, and we would like to do quite well in all of our buildings. And so this program, they will come in, like I said, free of charge, and do some in-services with our staff to give them resources in better ways to implement our health and wellness into our school district. It's proven that increased wellness will increase our education by days in school. They'll, if we improve their health and wellness, they'll miss less days of school, and it also is proven to be tied to increased test scores. So the state is making us have a wellness policy and follow it, and so this just seems like the icing on the cake as far as them coming in, giving us unlimited resources, helping us make sure that we're reaching our goals that we have set. And so I think it would be a good benefit for our district. It's a 4-year program. After that 4 years, we still have resources from them, but they don't bring anybody into the district and help us anymore. So.
I want to ask some dumb questions.
Okay.
When they're talking about wellness, what are the indicators they're using to determine that we have a high degree of wellness?
Well, we have a whole report that Teresa could get out to you guys that, I mean, we look at school lunches, we look at physical activity, we look at recess time, we look at health education in the classroom. Are we integrating some fitness into our classroom as far as maybe in the classroom, like if you're in a math class, having math relays where the kids actually get up and they go to the board and work their product or work their problem and come back, and trying to get some movement, because if you sit, the blood all goes to your lower extremities. It doesn't come back to our brain, and so then it decreases their think time. And so so anyway, those are the basic. We look at the after-school program. We look at our school parties, vending for those buildings that have vending machines, which is basically just the high school, staff wellness. So those are the things that we have to put in and give to the state, that then they come and check that.
So the resources is it the state government's offering, or is it federal government?
It is the Alliance for Healthier Generation, and they're a nonprofit organization, and you guys got the card and stuff Dr. Kraus gave to you. I don't know I'm not positive if it's federal or state, but it is, I mean, they are helping lots and lots of school districts.
Pretty sure, Dave, it's trickle-down dollars from the federal government
Okay.
to the state.
But the in-service dollars and things that they're offering are to work with teachers on how to increase movement in the classroom?
And health education and resources for teachers to use that are going to, most of when I talk to the elementary teachers from the teachers that are on the wellness committee, they are so focused on state assessment that they don't feel like they have time to teach any type of wellness or nutrition in their classroom. And so these will help give us resources that will help implement that into the classroom and not make them feel like they're taking time away from working at their indicators.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Schaefer?
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Gary.
5.02, an offer on the schoolhouse.
Okay, I wanted to bring this up as a discussion item. We have the house that the CTEC classes, the building trades class, completed a little over a year ago. It's currently listed for $210,000, and the realtor that we have it listed with had a verbal offer of $190,000, and then she had another realtor with a different company who said they had a lower non-binding offer as well. What I would like to have from the board is some discussion about what you feel like your bottom dollar is at this point for that house. I mean, obviously, would be financially expedient for us to be able to sell it, but also I don't think we want to give it away.
I guess the first question is,
Should we be discussing this in public?
is this a public, is this a, this would be a negotiation type situation? Is this something that we should go into executive session to discuss?
I think if we were discussing a particular offer, whether or not we would do that. I don't know, it could be,
What is the appraisal on the house?
That's what I was gonna ask. What's it appraised for?
Richard, do you recall right offhand?
I never got an official appraisal.
The realtor that we're working with was estimating 210. I've not seen if we got a formal appraisal on that would have been before I took over.
What did we put into it as far as what's our cost out of pocket that we,
Terry, you have a guess on that?
And I know probably more than 210. We're gonna take a loss on
okay.
We are going to take a loss on the house?
it. Unless we get more than 210, I don't think that's gonna happen. We've got more than 210 in it.
Really?
Is that typical for those houses?
For the last couple, yes.
Why?
Not enough kids in the program.
A lot of it's been
Oh, are we having to hire it out to finish it?
contract out, a lot of
Oh,
it, compared to what it used to be.
okay.
I guess I feel until we get a written offer in hand, I'm not gonna say, well, I'll go.
Yeah, and that's,
I mean,
that's kind of the way I
might-
feel.
After hearing this, it might be, need to be, $250, and then we start negotiation, because I think this has gone on before with this realtor, maybe we need to look at a different realtor that wants to hustle, because verbal offers are, Bill, I got a verbal offer, hold the house until another one sells, I wanna see it in writing.
Yeah, I don't wanna,
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm willing to discuss our bottom dollar negotiating position until we see a firm offer.
Okay. Well, the only issue with that will be the time factor. If you get a written offer the day after a board meeting, then you're looking at a fairly
I think
significant.
we can call a special meeting.
Call a special meeting,
Yeah, I mean, that's
Okay.
certainly not a problem.
and we can,
Legally, we can go into executive session for the purchase of real
Right.
estate,
Yeah.
the real property.
That's not a
You can't make a
purchase.
motion in the executive session.
No,
I
but we can
prosecuted
go
someone for
in,
that
we can go
before.
into it for discussing
To
the offer.
discuss it, yeah.
because if she's got a verbal, couldn't she have brought in a proposed contract that they would be, here's our offer pending sale of our other property? I mean, I just don't like this, let's make a deal verbally.
Well, and I wasn't asking you to make a deal on that particular offer, just to
Yeah.
give some thought to, so if we do receive a.
I would like to know, Terry, if we could, what the actual cost we have in the house is. That's
Okay.
to me information that's important for us to know before we make any kind of decision.
And how long has it been on the market? How long has it been finished and ready to go? Had the whole year, or, because I know they had a long time.
It would be right about a year. It got finished last summer, I think. Didn't Blake and those guys put so, yeah,
So it's been for sale on the
Like
market
a
that
year
long?
ago.
12, 13 months.
Okay.
That's a tough
But
price
when did
point.
when did we list it? And when did we list it?
It,
It hasn't been that long.
No, it's been,
This is about 6 months.
I was gonna say 6, probably. 6 to 7.
I mean, maybe we ought to look at a different realtor that's maybe wants to market it a little harder.
I guess the other thing I wonder about is, what was the original intended target price for this home when it was built? Or was there not one?
Not that
There-
I know of, and your target value is gonna fluctuate with the market, too.
Well, I understand that, but you typically don't start to build a house unless you have some idea of what you think you can sell it for, even if it is a teaching project. That's why I wonder what that amount was.
Okay. Well, we'll try and get those figures together for you in terms of what we have in the house. See if there's been a formal appraisal done, and then we'll
It's community.
bring that back.
Yeah,
Okay.
we have a select number of people who can.
We ready to move on to the next thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Item 5.03, ACS security presentation, Jerry Thorson. Brian Kane and I met with
Yep.
Jerry and
Okay.
Richard.
Yeah, go ahead and come on up in case there are questions, Jerry. Just to give you a little background on this, the board asked probably 5 or 6 months ago for a security audit to be done on the district properties. Jerry Thorson with Automated Control Systems is the one who did that for you. I attached this memo to my board update last week, and it's also up here. Basically, what is in front of you is his proposal for what could be done at the transportation building, the facilities and grounds building, the central office, and each of the schools. As you look through it, hopefully you had a time to look at this, and Dave and Brian met with Jerry and Richard and I last week just to talk through this. All of the systems basically are similar in each school. You'll have an A-phone front entry system. You're going to have an access control, video surveillance, panic buttons for the schools that don't already have them, a visitor management system. And so it's just a matter of how many doors are in each school, how many cameras they would need, those types of things. If you can scroll back a few pages, Amy, until you get to the first one that's got pricing information. Ought to be getting close. Well, I thought.
Keep going. You'll get there.
You're there, right there, you go.
Okay. Go until you hit the first school. I think Eugene Field is the first one listed.
Yeah.
Okay, right there. Tells the total price. In Eugene Field's case, he was estimating $88,000, and then the price is broken down by access control, video system, panic system, the visitor management, and the A-phone system. Dave and Brian, as I said, met with him, and then if you scroll to the very last page, Amy, so we can see the bottom line, so to speak.
The one that hurts the most.
Well, I guess it's, yeah, a little before that.
It's,
A little before that. Wasn't it at the very beginning?
there was no absolute grand total.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right.
okay.
That's right.
It was
There is an
roughly,
absolute grand
There is a
total.
grand total. We did, yeah.
There is a grand total.
it was
It's
right at 650,000.
635, 550.
Yeah,
635, 550. Obviously, at this point in time, we have about 1.6 million in capital outlay. I am not suggesting that we use that money at this point. One of the things that was fairly a common theme in the survey that was done was that the community was fairly much behind increasing the security measures that we have at our school. I think this would fit in very nicely with a long-term facilities plan, that it would make sense to, as you determine the direction that you want to go with facilities, that this be something that be incorporated into it. Dave, did you have any general feelings that you wanted to share with the board?
Yeah, at one point, we talked about your total maintenance system, and you were gonna get us some information about that, where it was the 5-year plan or whatever
The
that was.
global solution
Global
of it,
solution,
rather
yeah.
than doing a full
Yeah.
dollar amount.
One option that they did have is that they do offer a global solution, which I'm gonna let Jerry kind of give you the 30-second explanation of what it is.
A global solution is for districts, companies, organizations who don't want to, either don't have the funds or don't want to lay out, in this case, $635,000, that what ACS can do is we can install and maintain the system for a full 5 years for a monthly cost. And it becomes basically, it's your system, you own it, this is not a lease, it is not a financing service. We install it, we maintain it for maintenance, upkeep, repair, and replace for the next 5 years.
And then we own it at the end.
You own it at the end.
I think this needs to be on our planning
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
for the future.
I know that one of the things that Brian and I did ask when we were sitting down with these guys was, if there were pieces to this full-service solution that would be a smart way to stage in, that might be something lesser, and you did have some suggestions for us on that.
Yes.
And so you might, if we were, what the bare bones minimum suggestion, I think, was the airphone entry system and the panic
There
system?
were 3 items.
Yeah, there were,
Hold on here.
let me remember, because I don't.
It was the panic system, the visitor management, and the A-phone. If, for any reason, you had to break the installation into pieces, I would go with them 3 individual pieces to give a good start for security of the students and staff within the building.
Now, help me remember the access control piece. That was the key entry?
Correct. The access control is the card key. You got the, everybody is issued a electronic card.
So
which
wasn't
is a
that,
card
wasn't that
swipe.
one of the 3?
No, that was not one of the 3. It was the panic, the visitor management, the A-phone.
Okay.
Access control is, they're all very important, every
Yeah.
one of them. And to pick and choose as to the specific of which ones do you choose, which ones do you not choose. You can currently lock your doors as they are. The A-phone allows to challenge an individual at the exterior of the door before letting somebody in. You get to challenge them first. The visitor management system makes them scan their ID to ensure they're not on the sexual predator list. And then the panic system is a button that is pushed that creates a silent alarm to 911 and gets the first responders rolling. It also gives an interior audible pre-recorded message for staff within the building.
Obviously, it's going to take us some more time to study. Does anybody have any questions for Jerry or for
Locking
Richard?
system wired or wireless?
I'm sorry?
Is your locking system wired or wireless?
Wireless.
I think we need to put it on our agenda for planning.
Yeah, I agree. And Brian's right. I mean, and the community's obviously spoke that this is.
Something they're interested in, yeah.
And with the dollar amount, we might have to bid it, not just write a check.
Well, that, yeah.
Bid walls.
Yeah. Figure it in, doing it over a period of time, yeah, so. Yeah, it is definitely something we need to look at.
So rather than first bringing this to another meeting, Dennis, are you saying like, for instance, at the summer board retreat?
I
Yeah.
think this-
Make it
Yeah.
an agenda item
Make this an
there?
item on the summer board
This
retreat.
is more than just passing a motion to,
Right.
because to me, there's a bid wall issue here too.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Jerry? Thank you, Jerry.
Thanks for putting
Appreciate
that
it.
together.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your time.
Okay. 5.04, workers' comp insurance provider.
We had anticipated getting another bid for our workers' comp, and so I'd been putting off putting this on the agenda. What I'd like for us to do tonight, we'll discuss it now, and then in section 6, I'd like for you to approve it. We only have one bid for workers' comp. It is from KASB, who's our current provider. Their bid was $215,975 for a zero deductible. That's an increase of a little over $14,000 from what we're currently paying. Terry and I also asked them to bid out various deductibles, and you can see there a $500 deductible was about $205,000, a $1,000 deductible $199,000, and a $2,500 deductible $188,000. We're trying to stay as close to our current premium as we can so that we don't have increased budget for next year. So when we come around to section 6, we'll ask you to vote. We're going to be recommending, based on our occurrence history, we think the best bet for us is to go with a $1,000 deductible, that there'll be a number of claims that we can either not turn in and just pay outright. And if not, then we would have just $1,000 that we would pay of that premium, which we believe will still leave us under the $215 unless we have a horrible year, which hopefully we won't.
Just out of curiosity, Marge, did we get somebody to take your place on the workman's comp committee?
Someone has been appointed, not from here.
Okay.
I think you had that opportunity.
Yeah, I
but-
didn't know if it,
But no, I got an email that it has been filled.
okay.
But I want to know, all the 10 years I've been on, I haven't seen this deductible part. Who, the district would pay the deductible then for every claim?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And I do want to explain, I've done it before and I'm going to explain again, that 14,626 or thereabouts, that was, we voted to have a no raise, but the state made us have a raise, made everybody have that raise. And it was 4 issues, and it was like, it was bottom lined until they came and we had no choice, we had to include that. So it wasn't like the KSB raised it, it was because of the state
These are additional state requirements. that have been-
requirements, and that's what made it. Because we were really fighting for and pleased that we were going to have a straight line, but it ended up we didn't at the last, and what the state says is what you do. So I just want to explain that.
Brian, just out of curiosity, how many on average workman's comp claims do we have in a year?
The average over the last 5 years has been 11.
11 per year.
Mhm.
So you assume, I'm assuming that the 11 workman's comp claims, each one will go in excess of $1,000 in cost,
Not always.
really?
No. If it's simply a matter, sometimes it's a matter of an office call and, no tests, no x-rays, and then obviously that'd be much less.
Okay. Do you know how often they would go above the $1,000 figure?
Well, again, it varies from year to year. We've had as
On
few,
average?
we've had as few as 7 claims and as many as 16 in the last 5. The year that we had 7, 5 of them were above 1,000. The year we had 16, 9 of them were. So
So you,
playing the averages, we're still going to come up under by taking the $1,000 deductible as compared.
That's what I was trying to get to.
As compared to paying the full $215.
Okay.
I don't understand, if we've only had 9 and 16, how is our mod factor so increased so much? Because our mod factor, when I started on this, was 0.82. And now it's like, and it might not be exactly because I don't have it in front of me, but 1.37 or such. And it's an average of those 3 mod factors in 3 years is what that, then they base on that. We are the 7th highest in the state, Ottawa is.
Is the mod factor figure based on the
Usage.
cost of the injury?
It's based on usage, whatever that,
Well, and that could include cost of the rehab and,
Each year, we've had the misfortune of having at least one that was
huge.
huge, yeah, 100,000 plus.
Well, we haven't had,
Not,
in 10 years, we have not had a death, and this KSB had 4 deaths last year that we had to deal with. And are still
4?
dealing, 4, and we're still dealing with those, so, or they are, not I anymore. But anyway, that's why, I just wanted to know, because that mod factor is, will make or break, and it's broke us in the last,
Yep.
because I think 5 or 6 years ago, it was still fairly decent, and then it just ballooned.
so did you get a no bid on that other company you were trying to get?
they didn't submit an official bid, but the broker who was working with us said they were, what they were looking at was in the $240,000 to $250,000 range.
Yeah.
That's what a 1.37 will get you.
Yeah.
Any other
That's a no
questions on this at this point?
I don't think so. Anybody else? Okay. Moving on, section 5.05, potential policy changes. Dr. Kraus.
Okay, let me get mine open here. For those of you who are in the audience who are feeling a little drowsy, this might be a good time to stretch.
Part of the wellness program.
Part of the wellness program. We encourage
Yeah.
movement during this portion of the meeting.
I'm hopeful that you had a chance to look over the attachment. It was 61 pages, I believe. Some of the pages we'll need to give special attention to. Some of them I just included because I knew you'd want to read every word. The format that the attachment was set up in, first is the board policy as it now stands from us, and then right after that would be KASB's suggested revision. The first one there is BBCR, has to deal with board committees. Amy, if you would scroll to the first page, it's got some yellow on it. I think it's page 2.
It is.
The format of things, anytime you see yellow in the KASB edition, that is new language that wasn't in the previous one. The whole point of this recommendation from KASB, there were some changes made to the Kansas Open Meetings Act, and what's highlighted in yellow there, subcommittees of the board used to be able to be no more than 2 members, now they can be 3. There's some gray areas. It says there in that last sentence it's highlighted, board subcommittees are subject to the open meeting law. That is true if you are making some sort of decision. If it's simply an advisory role, what the attorneys from KSB told me that it's kind of a gray area at this point, whether that falls under the Open Meetings Act or not. The substantive change to this policy, though, is that now you can have 3 board members on a subcommittee without violating any law. So that's basically the only change to this particular topic. Again, all of these we'll talk about tonight. If you have any questions, we'll address them as best I can. And then the first July meeting, we'll ask you to approve these as official board policy. Any question on BBC?
Nope.
Okay, let's move along to GAAE as a bullying by staff. I think it should be the next page, Amy.
Yep.
Okay. This is our existing policy. What's highlighted there in yellow says suspension pending a hearing. KASB removed that language because not all teachers have the due process rights, depending on whether or not they're probationary or non-probationary. So they suggested removing that language. If you would go to the next page, please, Amy. It also, here in the highlighted section, this is new wording that's included in it, and the new wording was because parents were included in the definition and in the policy where previously they have not been. This was from House Bill number 2261, and it requires school policies to address the bullying of students and staff by parents. And the language on the prohibited conduct referring to parents was added there.
Good deal.
Any questions on this one?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on to GAAP. This entire thing is a new policy, so what you're looking at here is the recommendation by KASB. Emergency safety interventions came from KAR 91-421. Basically, it refers to the seclusion and restraint, not only of special needs students, of all students. So and they've defined very carefully what constitutes seclusion, what constitutes restraint. There are a lot of regulations about how this has to be rolled out to staff, what kind of in-service and training you have to do. Basically, it's about a 5-page policy, I believe. 3, 4, 5, yeah. Amy, if you want to find the end of that one, there's a yellow highlighted section. I just highlighted the last page. All of it is new verbiage, obviously, because it's a new policy. This will bring us in compliance with KAR 91-421 and KAR 91-422, and it is going to be legally required for next year. Our only decision would be if we want to accept it as KASB wrote it or if we want to modify it in some way. My suggestion would be that since this was written by their legal team, that we accept it as written. Questions on that particular policy? All right, moving along to the next one is GACCA, is the nepotism policy. That is the extent of ours currently. It says no employee shall be the direct supervisor of a member of his or her immediate family. This has been an official board policy since 2008. Amy, if you would go to the next page, please. Well, first of all, a nepotism policy is not required. We don't even have to have one if we should choose not to. KASB is recommending the changes that you see on there. In my mind, short and sweet is okay if you like what we have and feel like it's been meeting our purposes, but there's certainly no legal reason why we should change it. If you are interested in changing it, I think we could go with the whole policy here as written by KASB, or what I think might serve our particular district better would be to take the 2 paragraphs highlighted in yellow. The second paragraph says that any of our employees are not to be related to any board member, and the third paragraph is basically a grandfather clause. It says if you adopt this and you have a relative of a board member who's already working for you, that they're grandfathered in, so to speak. So just to give some thought to that. If you, like I said, we're not required to have a nepotism policy at all. If you like what we have and feel like it's meeting our needs, that would be great. If you want to change in some way, there would be 2 possibilities there for you to think about. Questions on the nepotism policy? You guys are easy tonight.
Yeah.
So far, anyway. The next one, GANA. This is about expense reimbursement and credit cards. We do not have, I think a couple of years ago, you guys discussed a policy and it was approved and it deals with this topic, but for whatever reason, I couldn't find it in board docs. I would like to wait on this one until next meeting to give me some time to talk with Terry about this. Ours is very similar to what's here. I think, Terry, didn't it say $500 maximum purchase? It doesn't give a monthly limit like this indicates in the yellow text that you might want to do. And you notice my little note there, that could be hard to predict. June is typically a spending spree month. Building administrators are checking their balances and getting what they need. So I would suggest we wait on this one, and I'll get a copy of what was approved by the board, and then we can compare it to what we have. But at this point, I think we ought to wait on this one. Well, we're waiting on all of them, but questions about that particular policy? Okay, GAOC. Currently, this is called tobacco use, I believe. The first one there is our policy. What KASB added was a section on electronic cigarettes. That was not addressed specifically in ours. It says includes but not limited to, so we could make that stretch. What I would suggest is on the next page, Amy, if you would scroll one more. I think if we use, we would delete the yellow text from the previous page and then add what's there, the use of tobacco products in any form, etc. As a hybrid suggestion, you could look at, I like the introduction to ours, the district property shall be tobacco-free. Board believes it's important to establish a good learning environment. And I like the philosophical bent of that. I think it's good to tie that back to education. So a hybrid policy would be what is in red there at the bottom of the page that's currently up. It incorporates the philosophy of our current policy and then changes the wording based on KASB's recommendation to include electronic cigarettes, and then some of the other verbiage about patrons who are in violation of the policy.
Yeah, I like the hybrid.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. Other questions on that? Are you, I guess on these that I have a hybrid suggestion, is that, can you give me an idea if that's the way you're leaning so I know what to bring back next time?
Yeah,
or-
that's what I would,
That particular one, I
that's
like
what I'd
that.
like to see.
Dennis?
I just stop at tobacco-free.
Okay.
That'd be real simple. You'd ever think you'd have to have electronic cigarette policy?
What do they come up with next? Okay, so you're leaning toward the hybrid one there a little bit? And we can always, if you want to do something different next time, we can do that also. Other questions or comments on GAOC? Okay, salary deductions. This is GAOF. What's highlighted, well, that first of all is our current policy. What I'm suggesting is that you replace that highlighted paragraph with the two paragraphs that come up on the next page, Amy. Those two there. And what that does is it brings us into compliance with House Bill number 2022 that dealt with the Kansas Wage Payment Act. Basically, if you change that, you'll meet the requirements of that law or the suggestions from that law. And then I would also, since we have tax sheltered annuities that we deal with in this district, I would include that as a third paragraph from our existing policy.
Yeah.
So then, if I'm new to the district and I have the only policy from Bill Alliger's annuity program, can we add just one person, or we still?
It says in there that we have to have 10, I believe, at least 10 contracts to add a new vendor.
Is there a limit?
Keep that paragraph.
Yes,
A
I'm
limit
saying
to vendors?
keep the tax sheltered annuities paragraph and add it at the bottom of those two that you're seeing on the screen right now.
Because right now, we have to have 10 to do that.
Yes, and we would keep that.
Okay, because
The-
that wasn't in this one.
Okay,
It-
yeah, the
there's not any
KSB,
limit- There's not a limit beyond the 10, right? I mean, they can have as many different kinds as they want.
right, as long as there are 10 contracts.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's going to limit it to 20 if everybody had 10, but
Yeah.
other questions on GAOF? All right, the next one is the Children's Internet Protection Act. This is a fairly lengthy one. The first 2 pages are our current policy. Amy, if you'd go to the 3rd page, has some yellow beginning on it. It's 2 pages again. The yellow wording, there's very little actual change to this from what we had. The KSB suggestion recommendation says both the federal and Kansas Children's Internet Protection Act, so they added federal to that. The thing that is a little bit concerning to me, if you'll scroll down, Amy, to the next yellow section, if you'll see in the first full sentence of the last paragraph, in line 2, it says, enforce technology protection measures to ensure no minor has access to visual depictions. Well, I'm very nervous about ensuring anything like that. Kids are always 2 steps ahead of us as far as technology and being able to access a proxy server or whatever it happens to be. I talked to Angie Stahlbaumer, who's the policy attorney at KSB, and she said that that is part of the wording of the legislation, so it needs to remain in there. But she also says that if we're doing the education that we need to, and we have appropriate filters in place, which we do, no filter is child-proof, I don't think, but that we can meet the requirements of the law. And then this will, if we adopt this wording, will bring us into compliance with House Bill number 2109 that they passed this legislative session.
So if we make changes to that particular portion of this policy, then we're out of compliance with state law.
Well, it wouldn't match the wording of the legislation, and so KSB was suggesting that we did not do that.
Okay.
Other questions on that one? Okay, the next page, IIBGC. This is a new policy, so what you're seeing is the KASB recommendation. If you will scroll to page 3, Amy, please, where you see the red. Basically first of all, this policy is not a legal requirement, so if we don't want to have anything to do with staff online activities, we don't have to. KSB is recommending it because they feel like it provides some protection for both staff and the district in terms of internet activities that the staff might engage in, whether it's, they say right in here they don't recommend that any staff member create personal social networks and invite current or future students to be their friends on that type of thing, so that they're wanting to maintain a professional relationship, student teacher relationship in anything that's done online. I would just encourage you guys to read through this a couple times, make sure you're familiar with it, and then we can decide whether it's a direction you want to go or not. KSB's legal team says that they don't believe there are any First Amendment rights here. They say they think that it contains no unreasonable restrictions on the school employee's First Amendment rights, nor does it contain any disciplinary procedures that would require negotiations. And those would be the 2 issues that we could potentially run into if someone were to challenge this policy. Would be A, you're infringing on my First Amendment freedom of speech rights, or B, this is a condition of employment that would have to be negotiated. KSB says no to both of those, but it'd be something for you to think about. Questions or comments on this one?
So this one does, in fact, deal with, say, somebody that has a Facebook account and makes statements on a Facebook account, even though it's not a school-sponsored one, it's their personal one, it could affect them.
The focus of this one is more on making sure that teachers are avoiding inappropriate relationships with students. If a teacher were to have their own personal blog on their own personal time, says something nasty about administration or board members or another teacher, then you would get into some First Amendment rights. The school would have to prove that it caused a material disruption to the school environment before there would be
Okay.
any legal way that you could discipline for that. This is trying to avoid the appearance of unprofessional relationships between students and staff.
Okay.
Anything else on this one? Okay, the next one deals with enrollment. Amy, you could scroll through the first 2 pages. That's our current policy. And if you go to the second page of the next one where you find some yellow, the only differences in these are currently we can accept or not accept part-time students at the board or administration's discretion, but there's nothing in there about a date when we would say, yeah, you can come or no, you can't. My personal suggestion where it says insert date there would be day before count day.
September 19th?
Yep. And depending on the year, that might be a weekend, but whenever. The other one is that they are required to follow the district's student conduct policies, which makes a lot of sense. A little farther down, in the old law, there was a reference to the SRS, and they've changed that to the proper terminology, Kansas Department for Children and Families. On the next page, what I think would be the most beneficial about this for us and for all schools is this directly addresses whether or not a student can transfer in an online credit from somewhere else. Now we have our own virtual school now, so first of all, probably won't be accepting credits from anybody else's virtual school. But let's say chemistry teacher has a reputation for being really hard, so Billy says, well, I'm not going to take chemistry from Mr. Smith, I'm going to take it online and transfer it in. This allows us to say no, if it's a class that we offer, you'll take it from us, and that we're not required to then accept those transfer credits. Any questions on that one? Okay. JCDAA. This is just the student version. We've got the staff section and the student section. The J policies refer to students. This is just updating the tobacco policy for students as it was for staff, adding electronic cigarettes in it. If you go to the next page, please, Amy. I do think KSB's policy is not quite as elaborate as maybe would be good this time. So I'd like us to consider the hybrid policy there that I have at the very bottom, that they are subject to discipline, including but not limited to suspension or expulsion in accordance with district policy and Kansas statute, and nothing about the policy diminishes our rights for disciplinary action, which that is not included in the KASB policy. So I think that would beef up our policy a little bit if we went with that hybrid. Questions or comments on that one?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah, it looks fine.
Okay, the next one. We're getting close to halfway done, I think. JDDC, the bullying policy. Obviously, by law, we are required to have a bullying policy. If you'll go to page 3, Amy, it's the first one with some yellow. Those first 2 pages are ours. The third one, again, just as with the G policy that dealt with bullying, this adds parents in there, and there's also the phrase, bullying shall have the meaning ascribed to it in Kansas law, and that is very clearly outlined in the applicable statute. And this would bring us into compliance, if you go a little farther down, Amy, with House Bill 2261. And it will be a legally required change. And so I would suggest that we go with the policy as written by KASB. Any questions on that one? All right, JGEC is the sexual harassment policy. The only difference on this You'll see right there, SRS is referred to again. Go ahead and keep scrolling, Amy.
Just changes it to
It
DCF.
changes it to, yeah, DCF authorities. That's the third page of the new policy. And then at the very end, you'll see that is the only change to it. They just changed SRS to DCF. So that's an easy 7 pages we just did. Questions on that one?
Let's do more like that.
Okay, JGFF, student use of vehicles. That page is our policy. It deals with driving and parking use of vehicles. KSB is recommending on the next page that you include regulations about bicycles and students who choose to walk to school. Just that they be taught the traffic laws, that those things are brought to their attention, just the obvious safety things that ought to happen if you're going to ride your bike or walk to school. You can be, injured doing one of those just like you can driving, so they're trying to incorporate the non-drivers, making sure that we're addressing their safety needs.
By the way, I've done a study on this, and it's come to my attention that kids who are between the age of 6th grade and 8th grade walk the slowest across a public street. That elementary children scurry to class, and high school kids fairly generally get to class, but middle
The
school
last
kids,
possible second.
middle school kids just dare you to hit them. That's just my observation.
Have you
Scientifically proven.
Have you developed a theory as to why that is?
Yes, I have. It's the same one that prevented me from ever wanting to be a teacher in middle school.
Okay, other questions or comments on that one? All right, moving right along to JRB. This is the release of student records. JRB is basically the policy that deals with FERPA, the Federal Educational Rights and Privacy Act, which tells us what we can and cannot release and to whom we can or cannot release it. The fourth page that Amy has up there. The two basic changes in this are that we can now, because of some changes that were made to the Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act, we can now release records more easily to a caseworker who's investigating, doing an official investigation of abuse on a student. Before it had to be released by the parents, even if they were the subject of an investigation. Now they can be automatically disclosed. And the other one is in response to a court order when a parent or party in a proceeding involves child abuse or neglect. So these are things that will put us in compliance with the changes to FERPA and also to an act called the Uninterrupted Scholars Act. And so we can release to DCF and comply with judicial orders and subpoenas.
This doesn't have anything to do with the NSA, does it? I mean,
No, it doesn't.
all right,
Maybe it could, but it doesn't.
good.
That's the Uninterrupted Scholars Act. That's if your visa goes bad before you.
All right, the next one, Amy, if you would. Okay, just past it. KGC. This is a new policy that is needed to conform to the new state law. The copy they sent says KGC, but I'm suspicious that those letters may not be the correct identification. I will check on that before next time. Basically, it just details or restates what was in the student and the staff bullying policy. Questions or comments on that? All right, the next one is KGD, crowd control. This is in response to the concealed carry legislation. As I'm sure you're all aware, public schools are exempted from the requirement to allow conceal and carry. as long as we have the little signs by each entry, the gun with the circle and the line through it, that allows us, we don't have to make any other policies besides that. What this crowd control one does add, however, if you go to the couple more pages, Amy. Let's go one more. Right there. Right under possession of a firearm there at the top of the page, it says, unless otherwise required by law or authorized by board policy, nobody besides a licensed police officer can have a gun on district-owned property. Okay, and we don't have to do anything else to make that be our policy. Now, it explains a little farther down, if I've got a conceal and carry permit, have done the legal training, have the license, there's nothing that the school can do to prohibit an employee from having a firearm in his or her car, as long as the car is locked. Okay? We can't prohibit that. It would be against the law for you to form a policy that says you can't even bring your gun on the campus. As long as an employee is legally licensed to conceal and carry, they can bring it in their car as long as it's left in their car. But we can prohibit them from bringing it into the building even if they have a legal license to conceal and carry. So the wording of this new policy would explain that. Now this is substitute for House Bill 2052. Questions about this one?
Yeah, secured storage, can you talk about that? It says, shall apply to the secure storage of a handgun in a district employee's own locked vehicle, so long as such employee holds a valid concealed carry and such weapon is maintained out of plain sight. So I guess my question is, hypothetically, if we know David has a concealed carry, he brings it to school with him, do we mean that it has to be in a locked and the gun locked and that cannot be used quickly, or can it just be slid under the seat?
What Angie Stahlbaumer said that they were interpreting that to mean was that it had to be either locked in the glove compartment or in the trunk, and the car itself being locked.
Okay, because we were putting secured storage, so.
Right, and that's how they were interpreting secured storage. And again, that won't be known for sure till it goes through court once or
Do we
twice.
need to be a little more clear on that? I mean, from an expectation standpoint.
Well, if you're maintaining the weapon out of plain sight, locking it in the trunk or locking it in a glove box is essentially the same thing as sticking it under the seat if it's out of plain sight. Yeah.
I mean, when people sit around and talk, I'm just saying, does that leave it?
If the car is locked, it's locked.
Since we're adding electronic cigarettes and tobacco policy, I just didn't know.
Well,
if that's.
we certainly could, if you want additional specificity as to what does out of plain sight mean and secure mean, we certainly could look at that.
I would wager that most people keep their handguns in their glove compartment, and I would wager that most of the people don't lock their glove compartment.
Or they set it right beside them.
Or they, have it under the seat. But, I don't know. But I don't think we're gonna be doing, checks of vehicles. So I don't know. It's
just something to be aware of if it comes up.
It is, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that would certainly be something that if you want to put some more specific language in there, we could add that, I think, without causing ourselves any legal issues.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments on this one? Okay, the complaints policy, this is KNR. You can just scroll for a while, Amy, till you get to the page that says KN5 at the top right. KN5, yeah. There we go. There was very little change to the complaint policy. All that they did in essence was add that very last section, and I should have made it yellow and didn't. Complaints about emergency safety intervention use right in the center of the screen. That's the only thing that's different. And this was added because they they passed the new law about emergency safety interventions, and so we also need a corresponding way to complain if someone feels like that has not been followed properly. So that's the only addition to the KN policy. Questions about that? That next form is the documentation form. Anytime that there's an incidence of seclusion or restraint that meets the definition of seclusion or restraint, we're going to have to fill out this form or something similar. Amy, I'm going to pick on you since you're sitting here. I know the elementary principals had worked on a form. I just got this a couple days ago. I think we need to just make sure that if you guys want to use what you
We
put
thought-
together.
We thought this was good to go to parents and have on file. The one that we developed has a little bit more information on it that we feel like is good for.
That'll be for the folder.
purposes,
Okay.
right. But as far as what was on there, we thought this would be good for parents. So we kind of have dual documentation, actually.
Okay. Well, good. And this is the form that KSB recommends, and we'll make sure that there are copies of this to all of the school buildings before we begin in August.
We just limit it to seclusion or restraint. I always wondered why we didn't use sedation. I mean, as a pharmacist.
It's a chemical restraint.
That is a chemical restraint. It's part of the law.
Good deal, let's get her in there.
Then the
Dart gun.
much to your disappointment, we're to the last page. This is the acknowledgement form that KSB has put together. Anytime there's an incident of seclusion or restraint, you have to call the parents and send them the acknowledgement form. And if you'll see toward the bottom there, it is something that the parent has to sign. And so we'll be recommending or giving this to all the schools as well. Any questions on any of those? In the next 2 weeks, if you think of any questions or concerns about these policies, make sure you let me know. Otherwise, I'll bring them pretty much as we discussed tonight for your approval to become official board policy.
Okay. Anything else on policy? Hearing none, we'll move on to board reports. Does anybody have any board reports? You don't even have a last dying board report?
No, because you guys did all the things last week and I wasn't on any committees
Can't
anymore.
kick you off everything.
Good go.
Those became effective July 1st, though.
Here I was hoping for one more report.
I do have something to say, and I was debating where I could say it, and I guess I'll just say it here. Back in February, right after I had my first surgery, I had several phone calls from some company, I couldn't understand the people that's talking, about my computer that was in dire need of having it fixed. And so we got through that, and enough of those calls that I called Kim Sippel. She talked to me. I talked to the police came out, even though I told them not to because I couldn't get out of bed to talk to them, but they came anyway. And they checked everything, and they didn't seem to be having a problem. Then, yesterday, 2 or 3 days ago, 1. Today, 3 of those calls
Really?
about my computer. Well, I use this computer, the school board's computer. So I don't know if it's because of my age. I don't know how they got my phone call. My phone number, I have no idea, but I wanted to share that with the rest of you in case it happened to you and you think,
Yeah.
oh, well, no big deal. I don't understand what the deal.
It's a
I
little
think
bizarre.
it is something,
Yeah.
but I just want you to know what it was.
Okay.
In fact, I was very creative with my last phone call today and hope it's going to be more because I shared quite a bit of information, what would happen if they called again, so we'll see.
Cool.
They had no idea I would be out of here tonight.
Okay, I do have a report. We did have a negotiations meeting, IBB meeting with the teachers last Thursday. Basically came together to discuss, the teachers had questions about transfers and the budget and where we might be able to scrape together enough money to provide them a raise. We shared with them once again that, we're looking at not only a flat budget for next year, but that we'd actually seen a slight decrease due to Title I fundings going down. That didn't seem to make them very happy. The comment was made that, well, there are other districts that are providing increases, and they're even making back pay payments. Like, well, good for them. We don't have that. So the last ditch effort that we did make is that Brian and I agreed to have them select 2 people, and not necessarily negotiators, to sit down with us and Terry and Brian and basically comb the budget and let them understand where the money is, what it's doing, why it's there, and see if there is anything that we can bring back to this body as a possible way to provide them a salary increase. But that's kind of where that's at right now.
All other issues are pretty much.
Pretty much everything else is settled, yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a good idea.
Any other board reports? Hearing none, we'll go on to 5.07, Superintendent's Report.
Just one thing briefly, and this has to go along with what Dave was saying about negotiations. We did hear from our insurance carrier a couple of days ago. It was last Thursday, I believe. We had been told that we were going to have a 4.3% increase in insurance rates, and they basically said that they're going to be flat. So that will, yeah, we were planning on about a $73,000 increase based on that 4.3%, and this should allow us to keep insurance costs flat. So that'll be good, and that will also give us some money to work with for
Yeah,
the teachers.
which would be nice to at least give us something to work with.
Mhm. And as Dave said, we will, the 2 board members, 2 teachers that they will select, and Terry and I will sit down and just kind of look at every budget item and see what's there possibly.
Okay.
That
See
was
what's
all.
there, and then, and one of the big things that, along those lines, to go back to that for just a minute, is that it was a common expression of the teachers that were in attendance at various times that they didn't know our budgetary priorities, and which never ceases to amaze me that they couldn't figure that out. So we talk about it at every single board meeting. But so part of this we're hoping will be an educational process for them.
I wouldn't watch these meetings either if I didn't have to come to them.
I wouldn't either, but you could at least pull up board docs and read
Yeah.
what happened. Okay. Shall we go on to 6? Okay.
Instruments?
Did you have anything else, Brian?
No, that was it.
Okay.
Okay.
On 6, the first one there, the Garfield Instruments, if you'd open that up real quick, Amy. And Amy, jump in if there's something I leave out here. Garfield has some old instruments, and you can see them as soon as this comes up. What they are, they're all in need of repair. They've just been sitting in storage for years and years. And we would like for you to declare them surplus equipment so that they do have someone who's willing to give them $300 for them. And so we'd like for you to declare those surplus equipment.
Yeah, they come up. 2 bass xylophones.
2 bass xylophones, 2 soprano xylophones, a soprano Glock,
a
2
Glock.
small drums, an auto harp, and a bass guitar with an amp and stand, which is all First Act, which is Walmart brand.
Well, David, you would know better than I. What is the value of a first soprano glockenspiel
Oh,
on the street?
On the street, it goes for more, especially those Studio 49s.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always wanted a glockenspiel, but
We haven't agreed to this 300. If you'd like to make a counter offer to Amy, I'm sure.
no, that seems wildly exorbitant to me.
It's actually not a bad offer from
All right.
Calvin on that. But I think you could probably resell that Glock to you if you really want it.
Well, we want it functional, so as you deliver the script, you're playing it.
And this is something that would require a motion and action.
Do we have a motion?
Go ahead.
So moved. That
We have a
would
motion
accept-
by Marge. Do we have a second? Second by Dennis. All those in favor signify by saying, or by raising your right hand. I'm used to saying aye. I like that better.
Me too.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion passes 5-0. Now, what's next? Approve the buses.
Okay, we talked about this last meeting. We've got some route buses that are in the process of falling apart on us. The recommendation is that we get 2 of the 71 passenger route buses, 2 Type C 71 passenger buses, and that's from Midwest Bus at $81,607 apiece. There also is a leasing option in there, and then additionally, we are requesting 1 14-passenger lift bus for special education. We had originally considered asking for 2, but we've got some students that we were transporting out of town last year that it appears that they're going to be receiving services in town, or either that or possibly closer. I don't think it would be a good idea to get the second special ed bus right away until we see what our needs are. Obviously, we don't want an extra bus sitting around if we don't need it. So right now, it's for 2 route buses and for the 1 14-passenger with the prices that you can see there. I meant to talk to Terry about this and didn't, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have a recommendation? They can be leased. The leasing percentages are very low, 3.39 on the sped bus and
2.9 on the big one.
2.9 on the big one, which does not translate to a lot of additional money, would allow us to spread the payments out over 3 years. Terry, do you have a suggestion in terms of what that does for capital outlay?
That would be my recommendation. I did speak with the local bank, have them give me an interest rate, and the leasing prices here were the best, and with a lot less paperwork involved. I will definitely be below the amount that we've been paying for the last 3 years. So
Step in the right direction.
So it's a positive move to go with the lease then.
So having heard that, then the official recommendation would be the 271 passenger bus, 1 14-passenger sped, and that we would lease them over 3 years.
Okay.
I'll make that motion that you just read.
I think that's the least we can do. I'll second it.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bill.
we have a motion by Dennis and a second by Bill to lease the 271 passengers and the 114 passenger. Any further discussion? Okay. All those in favor, signal by raising your right hand. Motion passes 5-0.
So now, do we know who's going to get to drive the brand-new buses first with that big trophy?
The trophy winner gets to pick.
No, but I think you should get to
Has
drive
any
the
mention
first mile
trophy?
in each one of them.
Yeah, they announced
That was late.
Sure, road trip.
she won.
To go pick up the bus.
She's going to national and Tulsa competition.
That's okay, she deserves it, look at that trophy.
Well, the trophy's so dang big, I've missed half of our policy changes because it covered up the screen. No, that's all right.
That's all right.
I get bored by that stuff anyhow.
Okay. Moving on, 6.03, approve the workman's comp insurance provider.
Okay, this, we just obviously discussed this earlier, and we are suggesting that we go with a $1,000 deductible, which would result in a premium of $199,503.
I would so move.
Have a motion by Bill and second by Marge. So any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. 5-0. So I'll go to 8:30, yeah. Yep.
Mr. President, I move that the board go into executive session for the purpose of discussing matters related to employer-employee negotiations, whether or not in consultation with the representative representing the body. The board return to the open meeting at 8:30 o'clock in this room. The executive session is required to protect the district's right to confidentiality, negotiating position, and the public interest.
We have a second.
Dr. Kraus?
And Dr.
And
Kraus.
Dr. Kraus, yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. We'll see y'all in 15 minutes.
Come back into open session.
Well, you could tell him. I guess here's the direction. Okay.
Opposed? Go back on the session. You want to do that? Let's wait till we get done.
Okay, let me.
5 minutes, he says?
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Just a second. Mr. President, I move that we go in board into executive session for the purpose of discussing personnel matters for non-elected personnel, and the board return the open meeting at 8:40 o'clock in this room. The executive session is required to protect the privacy and interests of an identifiable individual.
You have a second? We have a second for Brandon. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Dr. Cross. Dr. Cross is included. Wow.
Mr. President, I move we come back into open session.
Second.
We have a motion, and a second to come back in open session. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Motion approved, 5-0. Okay. I guess that we will go, you want to go ahead and do staff list now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go ahead and do 9.01.
It's there.
Hmm?
Isn't that the right name?
I don't have. It's on.
Yeah, it's there. It's there.
Okay, yep, she's on there.
Yep. Good.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the personnel report.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the personnel report. All those in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Any opposed? There are none, so motion passes 5-0. Okay, I guess we'll go back up to item 4.01. And we have some plaques to present. Very snazzy. And Marge, you get to be first.
Because I'm the oldest, right?
Well, no.
Ladies first.
Yours was first on the
Okay.
stack. On behalf of the Board of Education of USD 290, I want to give you this plaque for 12 years of service to the district.
Thank you.
If you want to do speeches, you're welcome to. Brandon, on behalf of USD 290, I want to give you this plaque for recognition of your 4 years of service to the district.
Thank you.
And I want to say this is a bit of a sad day because
Absolutely.
I'm losing a good friend on this board and one of the strongest advocates for children I've ever had the privilege of serving with in March. And thank you very much.
Marge, we'll miss you.
Yes, we will. Brandon, we'll miss you too.
Thanks.
Okay, item 10.0, announcements. You got any?
I got nothing.
Cool. I'm ready for an adjournment.
Mr. President, I move that we
Hey,
adjourn.
wait a second.
What?
Let's let them make the motion.
I agree.
Perfect.
I agree.
Yes, great move.
Make a motion and we adjourn.
And I second it.
Okay.